Welcome to Something to Wrestle With.
Something to wrestle with.
Bruce Prichard. Well, you know. That's not
I cannot
Adrian.
stress enough
booted.
that no matter what you need to do, you need to go watch this match this week. If you haven't seen this next one in a long time, you need to go out of your way to watch The Rock regain the WWF title in a match with Mankind. An I Quit match that goes 21 minutes and 46 seconds. We talked about this and covered it in long form before, including quotes from Foley's book that I won't revisit now, but we talked about it in Beyond the Mat. So if you'd like to go back and visit this match again, I encourage you to do it there. We're going to touch on it here, but I'm not going to read the same excerpts from the book and whatnot that we did there. But it was a match that was heavily featured in that movie for a reason. The violence here is another level. It's important to remember that it happens just a handful of months after he's thrown off the cage at King of the Ring. So that happened at the end of June, 1998. Here we are at the end of January, 1999, and the crazy punishment continues. Not just with tables, not just with brawling through the crowd, not just with falls, but handcuffed and unbelievable one after another chair shot to the head. Perhaps overkill. Meltzer would even say at this point, it was sick chair shot city with an overkill to the point of 11 full force, brutal chair shots to the head, leaving Mankind in the aisle covered in blood when the tape played over the loudspeaker of him saying, "I quit," taped from his Heat interview. They brought out a stretcher, but he refused the stretcher job, although they were already into the next segment before showing him getting up and walking off on his own. This finish, and I'm not talking about the screw job aspect of it, didn't remotely qualify as entertainment. Maybe caring that a guy was formerly such a brilliant performer may wind up with no brain cells later in life qualifies you as someone who doesn't get it. There was one very interesting difference in phone calls here. After the Hell in the Cell match, probably 80% of the calls were glowing about Foley's performance and maybe 20% were concerned about the mentality of doing so. Both sides were right, since they should have been concerned. But if you understand Foley's dreams, it was a good thing too. This time, the calls to the Observer were 90% negative towards the finish, and almost nobody was raving in awe about the punishment Foley took, and more were mad at him for his lack of common sense than empathizing with him for the pain he was willing to suffer for the sake of entertainment and to make the match more memorable. He should have accomplished the same thing with 3 chair shots. I do want to point out, not in defense of Foley, but that I've seen people before take every bit as many chair shots as hard or harder to the head, and I'd bet pennies to the dollars on their financial payoff for it. It wasn't anything unprecedented, and there is a lot of money involved in the business nowadays, but hopefully we'll never see anything like this ever again. 3 3/4 stars. Man, it's pretty crazy. The Rock is here swinging the chair like a damn baseball bat, and there would be some hurt feelings afterwards between the two guys. Take us back. What were you thinking?
Well, hindsight's 2020, and I don't think that anybody in the foresight really pictured it being as brutal as it was. However, Mick thought about this match for a long time before going into it, and a lot of that stuff was Mick's call. Now, as he got into it, you realize, man, this is brutal. Plus, he's taking these unprotected chair shots that I don't care who you are. I don't care what the fuck story you're trying to tell, which the story he was trying to tell was, I'm not going to quit and I'm taking all this punishment. It was brutal and it was difficult to watch. It was difficult to watch 20 years later and look at it and try to rationalize it. It was absolutely brutal. But I remember going over that match with those guys and coming up with the spot to take the bump into the equipment and all that other stuff. It just, it is something that you will never see again. Hopefully never see again. And hopefully nobody on the independent circuit would want to try and recreate it. It's a lesson of what not to do. However, at the time, it was a story that sounded really great on paper. However, in execution, I think everybody was cringing and going, enough. I think it was enough in the ring after the first or second chair shot. It should have been over then. And that's hindsight. And that was also something that Mick kept getting up, and Mick kept, calling for more. And maybe Mick wasn't in his right mind at that time and doesn't even remember that. And, Mick telling Rock, you got to come with those chair shots, not doing what he was asked to do. And I think at the end of the night, it was a misunderstanding. There's even footage of Rock checking on Mick after the match. And you also have to take into consideration, Rock wasn't done for the night either. Rock still had to come back and do the thing with Austin at the end of the night. So, Rock's got to get showered up, get dressed, and do all this other stuff. But he did go in and check on Mick. Mick doesn't remember that. And it was a horrible scene with his family, and the fact that his kids, had to witness it. That was horrible. And it was something that as he revisits, I think he regrets. And as a producer, I regret, I don't think anybody saw it for what happened. I think that we pictured something else. It was brutal, absolutely brutal.
Let's say it like it is, unless I don't want to tuck it here. Rock got carried away and did too many chair shots.
Well, again, I don't know that Mick Foley wasn't calling him, and Mick getting up. And I think that Rock thought he was going to do 2 chair shots in the ring and then go to the back. But Mick kept getting up. It kept coming for more. So again, that's a call on the fly, and it's a judgment call. And it's something that's why, look, I wasn't in the ring. I don't know if Mick called for him or not. I don't know, but both guys are at fault for even coming up with the thing. And it was just brutal, but Rock was doing his job and Mick was doing his job. It was just brutal. And it was fucking too much. It was just, there comes a point where I think that, somebody should have audibled and said, man, you're in the moment. This is too fucking much. Go home.
But hang on now.
Nobody did that.
Let me play devil's advocate for a minute. Are we putting that onus on the concussed guy?
I put it on both of them.
Well, but
I put it on both of them, and I put it on the referee. I put it on all 3 guys in that match.
That's not fair to put it on Foley here to me. If he gets hit to the point where he's not in his right mind, I mean, let's talk about this. His brain is scrambled eggs at this point after a few of these. And you're like, well, they kept getting up. Fuck, he don't know what he's doing. You don't know
that they were scrambled eggs at that point.
Well, he's
taken more. He had taken more punishment than that before and not been scrambled eggs. So you don't know that. And you're going with something and you look at a guy and they tell you they're okay. And I'm not saying that's what he did. I'm saying that the onus falls and the responsibility fell on everybody in that match. And I think that Rock should have called it. And I think Mick should have called it.
When you're 275 pounds and you're swinging something as hard as you can and the guy keeps getting up, I mean, listen, he might be Superman, but holy shit, maybe it's time to do a body slam or something else. Mick wrote in the book, I was in a match that had gotten carried away. I was suffering a great deal and I wanted it to end. He's carried resentment for years over the number of chair shots. I'm sure they've patched everything up and everything's good now, but they weren't. I mean, he was upset about the number of chair shots, and some of this is because his family's there, and I'm sure they were fired up, and that makes it way worse. And it's all in the movie, and it is something you need to go see. So go watch the match. If you can run down a copy of Beyond the Mat, I would encourage you to watch that and listen to our episode about that as well. I mean, this is crazy. It's also their 3rd match in a great series of matches that they had. I mean, it
was fucking brutal. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. And I mean, it was fucking brutal.
Would you prefer this match or the halftime heat match?
Oh God, the halftime. Look, this match is hard to watch.
It is hard to watch.
It's just hard to watch for the brutality of it. The halftime heat was a fun match, and I thought it told a great story as well. This told a different story, and I just thought, you're looking at hindsight, it was absolutely brutal and very. It's just difficult to watch, man. It's hard because you're sitting there going and here's a guy that is given everything, and it was brutal. It was brutal. And again, I just go back and look at all of them, and I don't think that we had earpieces at the time for the referees yet. And I think if we did, we would have been yelling, "Go the fuck home. Just end it now. Go home." Didn't have that luxury. And it, if you haven't seen it, you like brutal shit, then you'll love it. But it's, here's a warning. It's brutal as shit and not easy to watch all these years later.
To be clear, The Rock is one of the nicest dudes I've ever met. He's at a level where he doesn't have to be, but he is the super nice guy. But I'd be willing to bet if you really tried to pin him down about, do you have any regrets from wrestling? Not in a funny ha way, not like, oh, that Pineapple Willie haircut or whatever. I bet this is one of them. But at the time, I get, it's important to remember too, The Rock's been in the business at this point. I mean, with you guys for 2 years and change, and the guy keeps getting up and you're supposed to beat him till he's down. It's 50-50, but man, I sure do think that this is something that he regrets, because I know everybody else involved does.